What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and in this video we will be talking about Ethereum. I'm going to give some price predictions. We're going to do some technical analysis together. It is the 29th of September. Hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it, you guys. It is, here we are with about 5 hours left in the day. $4,164 is the price right now. I very much do believe that we could see lower prices. We could go down to $3,700 to $3,600 before we actually start to revive the markets and come back up. But I think that largely does depend on Bitcoin. Now, Ethereum can move lower. It can see lower lows, and Bitcoin can maintain higher lows. It's very possible. But typically, if Bitcoin's got higher lows and it's growing, you're not going to really see Ethereum die down, especially whenever it's showing such immaculate strength over really over the course of this year. Since April, we've been doing some pretty phenomenal things, finding support at prior resistance. I highly doubt that Ethereum would see lower lows in the course of Bitcoin seeing higher lows, but I'm not convinced yet. Okay, and we're going to talk about Bitcoin real quick, but then we'll talk about Ethereum. Okay, yesterday the 28th, this was the final 4-hour candle, and notice how the final candle really dictated what happened on yesterday's movement. Yesterday's movement was largely predicated on that final 4-hour candle. We still have about 5 hours left in this day. Do you think we could make that same movement down? We're up 1.6%. This candle here was up about 1.66%. We could absolutely make that same movement down by the end of the day. And by the way, if by the end of today Bitcoin does close red, if we are to close below, what is this, the 382 of this measurement here, if we do see this happen, I would think that if we close below $112,000, essentially 112.1K, if we close below there, at that point, I think it's undeniable that we do see lower lows. If we close here or higher, I think at that point it's time to start considering that this is the low. That doesn't mean that we just rip. That doesn't mean that we can't see a higher low, pull back something like that. But it does mean it's time to start to consider this as the low. Okay, depending on what we do. 5 hours is a lot of time. I am reluctant to say that we have found our low until today closes. Okay, I'm very open to it, but I'm just reluctant until we get the daily close. I think it's important to wait for that daily close, and maybe we'll see why. Maybe it'll validate me or invalidate me, but either way, it's important, I think, to wait in moments like this. And with that, again, we're focusing on Bitcoin there, because if Bitcoin validates its low, I think in turn that validates Ethereum's low. And again, what I said, Ethereum could go lower. Even if Bitcoin validates its low, that doesn't mean Ethereum's off the hook. But I would think that it's going to be hard pressed. You'd be hard pressed to find Ethereum going lower if Bitcoin's showing the bullish signals. So with Ethereum and Bitcoin finding support, if they do find their lows and they do determine that their higher lows are in effect, we'd be thinking the same exact thing for both of them, which is new all-time highs. Bitcoin number 1, Ethereum number 2, XRP number 3. All three of the top cryptos on the precipice of seeing new all-time highs. You can't tell me that doesn't bode well for the altcoin markets, right? If you've doubted an alt season, this is not the time to be a pessimist. With the top 3 and arguably probably the whole top 10, top 20 coins progressing to new relative highs and new all-time highs altogether at once, that really does, in my opinion, fully express the fact that alt season is really coming. So regardless if this is the low, regardless if we go lower first and then we move up, whenever it is time for all these coins to start thinking about new all-time highs, which we really should be thinking every single day now, because we're just so damn close. When we're at new all-time highs for Ethereum and Bitcoin and XRP and Solana and all these top coins, likely alt season is going to be kicking off. We're going to see that finale phase of the bull market, because we haven't seen that. We haven't seen that where all these coins all together, all at once, are seeing new all-time highs. But we're about to. We're on the precipice of it. That kind of attention being drawn to the space, it's going to bring in new investors. It absolutely will. And Ethereum here, my thoughts on us going lower, let's go over the short-term stuff and see if we can validate that or invalidate that. Let's actually go over, do some technicals, do less talking here. On the 1-hour time frame, we're at about $4,168 now. Looking at this here, the RSI overall is very bullish. Very, very bullish, yes. Bouncing off the oversold zone, volatile here, a little bit neutral, but you chose a side and you stuck with it, right? Overbought, bounced off the 50, got overbought again. Clearly bullish here. Clearly a bullish endeavor. You have a higher low, higher high trend, right? All the way back here, higher lows, higher high. You're clearly in an uptrend. Could you come down? Sure, but whatever. You come down a little bit, you could bounce there. That's not a big deal. Just because you go lower from here, even ending the day, does not mean that you have lower to go after that, right? Maybe you do come down. Come down to, you're at 41.69. Go down to 41.20 or 4100 itself. Even just below there, you're probably fine. But again, if Bitcoin does what I think it could do by the end of today, then maybe we have lower prices to address. If we close here or higher, which is also very possible, then of course I would think that we are very bullish at this moment. Do understand though, high to low, even if we flip bullish here, that does not mean that we're just moving straight up. We absolutely could, from the golden ratio here, find resistance, come back to 113K, 112K, find support at those areas. That's very common. So it wouldn't surprise me if as soon as I flip bullish, which would be by the end of today, if we closed here or higher, we move down a little bit. But I don't think at that point that we'd be worrying about lower lows, okay? But we'll see. Bitcoin's very squirrely right now. Crypto's kind of squirrely. We're in a state of anticipation, I would say, right? Anticipation for multiple things. Anticipation with how the inflation data will come out next month. Anticipation with the taxation regulation that's going to come out with the October 1st Committee on Finance from the U.S. Senate. They're talking about taxing digital assets. Anticipation in regards to, will the Fed cut rates in November? Right? There's a lot of anticipation built. And then, of course, Q4 is starting in 2 days. In like a day and a half, it starts. And Q4 is notorious for being the most bullish phase. Q4 and Q1 have very bullish tendencies for crypto. Q1 can also be a bit of a disaster at times, but it just all depends. There's a lot of anticipation in the markets right now, and I think we're waiting. So in the midst of that anticipation, we could see a little volatility. We could definitely see the markets come, or the prices come back down. Hold on. That's my dryer. I don't even know what that song is. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but if you guys hear it, I was just waiting for it to stop until I continued on. 1 hour time frame, I have to admit, everything looks good. So any downside from here, I don't really see it. Let's look at something with some volume real quick. Let's see, because the volume might change my mind. Nope, the volume looks good. So looks good to me. Looks like you want to keep going higher. If you want to keep going higher, where might you go? Let's actually figure that out real quick. From a high here to a low here. We're not going to take the fake out. I guess we can take the fake out low because it's all kind of part of the same sideways, slowly leaning trend. So high to low. Oh, nice. That's very good structure. Yeah. Found support at the 1272. Found resistance at the 2272. Found support at the 1618. Might you go up and find resistance at the 2618? All the way up here at $4,200. 43, 4,200, maybe even all the way up to this area here. Something that's right at, but perhaps just above this area, gets people psyched up, gets them thinking that we're going to move higher, and then we move down. Maybe not. But yeah, I could see us moving up at least to 4,200 from here. To be completely fair, I do expect that to happen. And if I'm wrong, if we move down, cool, whatever. You can move down a little bit and still move up. But, and again, with the 1 hour RSI, there is kind of a reason to believe that. But sometimes what you do, we're going to move on here in a second, I promise. But sometimes what you do with these upward sloping trends is that even though I think the obvious, and I'm not drawing the straightest lines, but you can see, even though the obvious thought would be you go down here, sometimes whenever you phase out of these upwards trends, you turn them into sideways trends, and you typically stay above the 50. So then once you break out of it over here, that might be whenever it's time to go down. And this whole time getting in and out of the overbought zone like this, that can actually promote a lot of growth, you guys. That can promote a lot of growth. But looking at this here, just looking at this fib sequence, I would think 4,200 or more is where you're going right now. Absolutely. I would think so. By the end of the day, if not tomorrow, sure. We're on the 1 hour time frame. Things look good on all fronts. 4 hour stochastics look bullish. The RSI looks bullish as well. Bouncing off of the overbought zone is not good. Retaliating and holding the 60 for support, that is good. You took a not good thing and turned it into something good. That means likely good things are going to happen. You're going to get overbought. If you're going to get overbought, the reality of the situation is, let's just look at this real quick, okay? You moved up from this low, okay? Here you are. Finally, you get overbought right here, okay? You start moving up here. You're moving sideways, but you start moving up here, okay? Started moving up. Nothing really, a little bit of some big candles here. But what happened right here when you got overbought? What happened right here? Do you notice how the pace from here to here was like this, but the pace from here to here was faster? It picks up the pace. If we're about to get overbought, the pace will pick up. As fast as this was, as fast as this was, as fast as this overall has been, the pace will pick up. So I might be too low with saying 4,200. Maybe we need to take another target. Let's try. Because again, this fib is actually pretty small. Maybe you do see deeper extensions than I'm giving it credit for. Because small fibs, you typically do see deeper extensions. Maybe you go all the way up to your 3,618 or your 4,618 or the 5,618 or the 12,618. Who knows? high to low here. Things get kind of wacky the higher up you go with these fibs though. High to low here, getting above the 382. And actually this is a good look in itself. I would think you do go to the golden ratio. So yes, I think looking at this with the RSI and the stochastics and the MACD crossing above the zero, I think Ethereum is on its way right now to about 4380 to 4450, the golden ratio, which is where our prior areas of support were, might be where we find resistance. From there, depending on what we do, we can very well validate this low as the low. At this point in time, not financial advice, not a financial advisor, I'm more accepting of Ethereum having found its low than I am of Bitcoin having found its low, which might sound odd, but that happens at times, right? Ethereum has definitely been more bullish over the past, well, like since April than Bitcoin has. So it can be more bullish here as well. At this point in time, I'm very convinced that yes, you go up to about $4,400, give or take $50 in either direction. I think you do. Could you go higher? Absolutely, but I think you'll find some volatility. You know, probably tomorrow you'll be up at this area, like early day tomorrow. Maybe you come back down, ending the day or something like that, going into the beginning of October, you come back to these prices. I would expect that we go up and then we probably come back down to these prices for support and then you continue higher. Or you find immaculate, tragic resistance here. It's a lower high overall, and now you form a lower low, you know, something like that. But I think the lower low will be less likely if Bitcoin closes here or higher, if it validates its low. It'll be more likely if Bitcoin is to go lower. But Ethereum, I'm more accepting of it finding its low right now. I'm actually okay with calling for this to be a low, especially because of just how spectacular the 4-hour time frame looks. It looks like you want to go higher. It doesn't mean you're out of the woods. Again, you're still at a lower high in overall essence here. I want to see how you interact with this area, and I want to see how you interact over the next couple of days. Let's wait and see. But I absolutely believe you're moving higher from here. Okay, might be too early for me to call the low, and I don't care if I have to say okay, we're moving up from here. And then up here, I'm like, okay, I think it is the low. Cool. If I say we're moving up from here, okay, I think we're going to move down. And then it moves up more and it proves me wrong. Cool. Then the low is in. One way or another, we're going to have clarity on what to do with this low or not. But if we do go lower, if the price does go lower from a low here to a high there, the expectation would be that we see $3,700 to $3,600, probably just below $3,600 there. It's very common. It's extremely common to go from your 1272 to your 786, 886 area and then reject down. That would go against what I'm seeing in the 4-hour and the 1-hour time frame. It would go against it. But again, if Bitcoin takes a dump, Ethereum will probably go with it. If some kind of fundamental catastrophe happens, that might happen. We're at prior areas of support here with our resistance right there. Prior areas of support here with our resistance right there. So those could definitely line up enough to send us lower. Okay. Keep your heads about. What I'm trying to say here, I'm not trying to play both sides of the ball. I am trying to play both sides of the ball, but I'm not trying to say it could go up, it could go down. That way, whenever it happens, whichever way it goes, I'm going to be like, I was right. I told you. No, I'm clearly calling for the price to go up from here right now. But we're talking about the downside and discussing that because if it happens, it's important to be aware of that. Because if you just think it's going to go up, if you're not prepared for a lower low and it happens, you might panic sell. I don't want anybody to panic sell. If we go to a lower low, it's just going to be a slightly lower low. It'll probably be the low itself, the best time to buy. Don't sell there. It's okay. It's okay if the unexpected thing happens and that we do go lower. At this point in time, I'm not saying that it's unexpected of us to go lower. I'm just saying I expect us to go higher first before we go lower. I'm not calling for this to be the low yet. I know it's a lot of confusing words and rhetoric here. You might not be able to understand where my head is, but I'm trying to make it very clear for anybody who's listening, as clear as I can. I don't know if this is the low. I don't believe it is yet. I do believe we go higher. I don't know if Bitcoin's found its low, but it could be. Depending on what happens over the coming days, it might take us moving up higher for me to validate this as a low. It might take us moving up higher to be like, okay, we are going to go lower. It depends on what we see up here, what the kind of reaction is. And I think we're in a wait and see environment. But I do believe we go higher. And in case I'm wrong and we do inevitably move lower, 37 to 35.80, that's where we're going to go. Okay, that area there. And you're not going to panic. You're not going to freak out if that happens. You're going to buy because then we're going to rip. Then all these fantastic things that take place afterwards will come into view. Okay, we look at the daily time frame here. The RSI is bouncing off the oversold zone. That's bullish. This is a bullish reaction. It's the same reaction we had back here in June whenever we found our low right here, our slightly lower low throughout this sideways range, and then we ripped. Does that sound familiar? Hello. Slightly lower low throughout this sideways range. Very similar reaction here in the RSI. Could be setting us up for failure, or maybe it's telling us the same exact thing that we saw before, which is success. And actually here you're finding support at prior resistance here and resistance from dating back earlier in 2025 and 2024. Stochastics look bullish. The MACD is the bearish thing. That's the one thing of concern, but you can find sometimes you scoop below the zero. You know, like you did it back here. This is a little bit more extreme, but sometimes you do. It really depends on what we do over the coming days. I will say the daily looks good. The 4-hour looks good. The daily looks good. It's hard. It's hard to believe that we would go lower than this low, I must admit. The door's open still, but it's not looking likely. Stochastics are giving us lower lows week after week, and we've got higher lows. RSI, same thing, but we got higher lows. I think overall you're just super bullish. The further out we zoom, the more bullish you are. Inevitably, regardless what happens between now and tomorrow, the next day, this week, whatever, in the opening of October, regardless of what happens, between now and the end of this next endeavor, which I mean to the upside, right? The end of this next move up. We're clearly moving up. We're not moving down. This next endeavor is taking us higher. By the end of this next endeavor, we should be at about $8,000 or more. By the end of the year, I really wouldn't be surprised if Ethereum was worth $10,000 or more. By the end of October, maybe early November, we're at about $8,000. But that's the expectation there. All in all, we're very bullish on Ethereum. In the more immediate time frame, we're a little bit skeptical and hesitant, let's say, but I'm willing to say that this is the low. I just need to see more first. I need Bitcoin to prove its stuff. Closing here or higher today would be fine. Even if you close down about $1,000, it's still fine. It wouldn't be the best look, but still some good stuff. Tomorrow is also important. It really depends on tomorrow, because sometimes it's very uncommon that you get 2 days in a row to close above the 382 and then you go lower. It's very uncommon, but sometimes it happens. That third day might be of importance. It just depends on how today closes. Right now it looks good. It looks very fantastic, but there's a lot of time left in the day. We'll see how it goes. I want to stay in this level of kind of limbo before we pick a directional heading, right? And I suppose the directional heading that I am picking overall for Bitcoin is lower. For Ethereum is slightly higher, and then maybe lower. And if I'm wrong, cool. We found the lows. We're ready to rally. October's just going to be a bull fest from the start to the finish, and that can happen too. So I got nothing else. Hit the like button. Definitely expecting bullish things in October and the rest of this year. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.